Guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to talk about the Historathon 3.0 readathon that's happening in the month of November. This is a historical fiction focused readathon that is being run by my friends Amanda from the Curly Reader, Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library, and Gloria from Gloria Thompson. I will leave all of their announcements down below, so if you want to go check them out, please do. But these are three ladies that I definitely go to for historical fiction recommendations because they do read a lot in that genre, and I very much trust their opinions. So this is the third round of the Historathon readathon, and I'm very excited to participate in this round. And the way that they are doing the prompts and the challenges is a lot of fun. So I'm very excited to take part. Now, here's how I'm doing it. This is not going to be the only things I'm reading in the month of November. I'm going to be reading a couple other things. I'm going to dip into some other genres just because I don't typically take one genre and just read that way the whole month. I need to change it up a little bit. But I did pick one book for each prompt, and we're just going to see how far into that stack I can go. So I do not have plans to read every single one of these books, but I am going to start at the top and work my way down and just see how many I can get through along with my other reading. So that's how it's going to be. But the way that they structured this is really cool. So what they've done is they call this a stitch in time. So you start with the first prompt, and then you actually do need to read in order because the next prompt is something that's going to piggyback off of the book that you just read. And then you read that book, and then the next prompt is going to piggyback off of this. So you're using the books that you just finished to determine your next book. And I thought that was really cool. So they did have this image here of the prompt. So I printed it out from Instagram. And so there's 9 different prompts, and you'll see as we go through how they kind of play off of each other. And as you can see, there's 3 different shades of this really pretty coral color. So each set of 3 prompts is going to be representative of a different title, which I don't remember the titles off the top of my head. I need to write them down. So if you do the first 3, then you're considered whatever that title is. If you do the second 3, like whichever one you land in is kind of like your title at the end of it. So that was kind of cool. Okay, so for the first prompt, it is a book with the word lost in the title. And you could go so many different ways with this. There are so many historical fiction books with the word lost in the title. And they did this on purpose because there is a group read as well, and that is The Lost Girls of Willowbrook by Ella Marie Wiseman. So this is definitely the one I'm planning to read because I do want to read this book. I want to read more from this author for sure because she wrote one of my favorite circus books, and so I've been wanting to read more from her. So when I heard that this is her newest release and it was going to be the group read, I went ahead and picked it up. And it does have the word lost in the title. Now, if you don't want to read this one, you can pick any other historical fiction book that has the word lost in the title. So you don't have to read this, but it is kind of a good starting option for everybody if you plan to read along with the group. Okay, so from here, the second prompt is to read a book that is set in a different country than this one. So this book is set in Staten Island, so it's in the US. So I can pick a book that is set in any other country other than the United States. And for that one, I'm going with The Gown. This is by Jennifer Robson. And this one is set in England because this follows the dressmakers who made the dress for Queen Elizabeth when she married Prince Philip. I think she wasn't queen when they got married. I think she was still a princess. But so this is very timely as well because Queen Elizabeth just passed recently. So I thought, this is a great time to read this. So this one is going to be checking off a whole bunch of different checkboxes for me for some projects that I'm working on. And so this will fit in so nicely to a lot of those slots. So I'm going to take advantage of it and use it while I can. But I'm very excited to read this one. And I'm also going to be buddy reading this with Linda. So she's doing Historathon as well. So we're going to buddy read it together. And I'm very excited. I've heard incredible things about it. Okay, so from here, the next book you're supposed to read is a book that has a similar cover. And I actually have one that works really, really well. So this is a really big black and white photo kind of taken from a top angle, a little bit angled down. It does have like a little bit of a border here that's a different color. The title is in like a specific color. And so I actually do have another historical fiction that has a very similar cover, and that is Rules of Civility. This is by Amor Towles. So these both have really large black and white photos taken from a top angle. The title is in a different color. And this one does have a border around it as well. It's a little bit of a light border. As you can see, this one's thicker, but there is a border around it as well. So I thought these covers like really went well together. I was actually pretty shocked that I found a really good one. I thought this would be a little bit difficult, but this one works fantastically. So this one follows a young girl named Katie who's living in New York City, and she has a happenstance meeting with somebody from high society, and they just kind of start forming a relationship. And so it's her kind of getting into the high society of New York City in the 1930s. So that is what this book is about. I have not read anything from this author yet, and I've heard amazing things. So I'm really excited to actually finally read one of his books. Okay, so from here, you are supposed to read a book that is set in a different decade than this one. So this one is set in the 1930s. So we are going to move over to the 1960s, and we are going to read When We Left Cuba by Chanel Clayton. Okay, so like I said, this one is set in the 1960s. It is set in Florida, and this is following Beatrice. So this is actually the second book after Next Year in Havana that I read and really enjoyed. And so I definitely wanted to continue. And this one is going to follow Beatrice, and it is following her along with the Cuban Revolution, and she is actually recruited by the CIA to infiltrate Fidel Castro's regime. So I imagine this is going to have a lot of intense things in it, but I'm very excited to read this one. Okay, so from here, you are supposed to pick a book whose author's last name starts with the same last name as this one. So this is Chanel Clayton, so it starts with a C. So I needed to find another historical fiction book that is written by an author whose last name starts with C. This took me a lot longer than I was anticipating to find. I had to really search through my shelves, but I found one on my review cart because I had this sent to me from the publishers when it came out in paperback, and that is Surviving Savannah by Patty Callahan. So this one is set in the 1800s in Savannah, Georgia, and it actually follows a true ship that set sail and departed from Savannah and then blew up on the ocean, killing a lot of Savannah's high society people. And this is a dual timeline, so we're following someone who is set in today's society who is kind of going through some of the artifacts that were found from the wreckage of that ship and kind of tying some pieces together from the past. So I'm very excited to read this. I've heard really good things about it, actually. A lot of people who said that they read this really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what I think. Okay, so from here, we're supposed to find a book that has a fewer number of pages, so something shorter than this. So we're going by page count here. So this book has a final page count. We're not going to count author's notes or anything like that. There's a lot of historical stuff in here. So 395 pages. So I need to find something that has fewer than 395 pages. So this one was pretty easy. I just had to find something that looks a lot thinner, and I found Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein. This one comes in at $273. So I cannot believe I haven't read this. This is a very, very popular historical fiction, and I always hear great things about it. It is, I believe, set, let me double check so I'm not telling you guys misinformation. So there was a train, an actual train that ran between 1854 and 1929, and it was actually called the Orphan Train. And it is children who have been orphaned because of wartime situations or poverty or something like that, and they're all put on a train and they are sent to big cities so that families there can adopt them. So this is following some of the orphans on that train and kind of what their happenstance means after they get to where they're going and kind of what happens to them and all that stuff. So I have just heard nothing but good things about not only this author, but this book in particular. So hopefully this is one that I'll be able to make my way through. Okay, so from here, you're supposed to pick a book that has a protagonist of a different race than this one. So this one is going to feature predominantly white characters. So for that one, I went ahead and picked up Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this one is going to feature Hispanic characters. So this book takes place in the 1970s, and it is in Mexico City, and we're following a woman who is living in this apartment building, and she's just kind of living her life, nothing too special, kind of boring actually. She's craving a little bit of drama and a little bit of excitement, and she gets that from her neighbor, who I believe ends up being part of like a drug cartel type thing. And she ends up finding herself mixed up in it because she comes to the aid of somebody who needs it. And so she kind of ends up getting thrown into the mix, and she gets her excitement. So I haven't heard much about this book. It's a book of the month book that I picked when it came out during that month. And I don't know, the cover really intrigued me, and I heard it was kind of supposed to be like a noir feel to it, which really had me intrigued as well. And yeah, so we'll see. I did just recently read a book by this author, and it wasn't my favorite, so this one might be kind of like a solidifier on, am I going to like this author, or is she not going to be for me? So we'll see what ends up happening, but it is nice and short, so I'm hoping that I can get to this one as well. Okay, so from here, we are supposed to pick a book by an author that has blurbed this book. So this was tricky because I have a Book of the Month edition. There's no blurbs on Book of the Month editions. Like the back is just a picture, and Book of the Month stuff, there's nothing in the front. So I went on Amazon and looked at this book in particular, because sometimes they will have like screenshots of blurbs featured from the book. So luckily this one did have that, and I found a blurb from Simone St. James, and I got very excited because I have a historical book by Simone St. James on my shelves. This one is Silence for the Dead. I love Simone St. James, and I'm definitely, I love her new stuff, like so much. I am dabbling a little bit in her older stuff, but I haven't necessarily enjoyed her older stuff as much as her newer stuff. I think she's kind of going in a little bit of a different direction, and I'm really happy about the way that she's going right now. But I still have a couple of her older books on my shelves that I do want to read, and this is one of them. So this one takes place in 1919, and we're following a woman named Kitty, and I believe this is like a mental institution, patients type thing, and there's going to be some sort of haunting because that's what Simone St. James does. She does ghost stories better than any else that I've read. Like, I want to say she's the best out there, but that's probably not fair because I haven't read a ton of other authors, but she's my go-to for ghost stories. If I want to read a ghost story, I'm going to pick up Simone St. James. She's just so fantastic at it. And yeah, so historical, mental institution, ghosty, I'm in. Okay, so this last one here. The last prompt is to read a book that has the same number of letters in the title as this one. So this book has 17 letters in the title. And so from there, I am going to pick The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. This one also has 17 letters in the title. This is huge. It's huge. The writing is not super big. Am I going to get to this? Probably not. So I almost hesitated putting it on my TBR because I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to read this, but I might not even get to it. So that's kind of where we're going here. So like me picking it up was just kind of like, I need something to put in here. I'm probably not going to get to it. It's okay. I'm trying to decide if I want to read this book in general. So I actually wanted to put it on here so I could get some of your feedback. If you guys are historical fiction fans, is this one to pick up? Because I'm hearing mixed things about it. I'm hearing people who used to love it so much, but then over time, they kind of changed their minds about it. So I'm just wondering if this is even worth the read for such a huge, commitment of a book. I definitely bought it because of the hype. So give me your feedback. Let me know. If you think that, if you've read this book and you think that it's worth the read, please let me know. If you read this and don't think that I would like it, or you think it's really not worth the read, or it doesn't hold up over time, let me know that too. I'm just kind of trying to get some feedback on this one because I'm just not sure. But it is on the TBR for now. We'll see if I end up getting to it or not. I could. You never know. We'll see how the month takes me. But it is here. Okay, here are the 9 books that are on my TBR for Historathon in the order that I'm going to be picking them up. I'm hoping to at least get through half of these. I think that would be amazing. That's going to be kind of my initial goal. But we'll see how the month takes me. because like I said, I am reading other things during the month as well, which you'll see later, but I'm very excited to be participating. I love the way that they structured it. I think it's so much fun. And yeah, so let me know down below if you guys are going to be participating as well. If you are, what are you picking for some of your prompts? And yeah, that's going to be it. So again, I will leave all the 3 ladies down below. I will leave their announcement videos for this readathon if you guys want to check them out. And yeah, that's going to be it. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you later. Bye.